and welcome to Your Questions Answered. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by another one of the Dudley Boys, Michael Sidgwick from WhatCulture, to answer all of your burning wrestling questions. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we review AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round of the week complete. The bigger quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, they're joined by Michael Sidgwick to answer your wrestling questions. It's been a while since it's been you and me doing this. Looking forward to it. We tweeted them out at msidgwick, at Adam Wilbourn, asking for your questions. I'll start with an obvious one that we get quite regularly. Regarding AEW, Carlos Fandango says, with AEW constantly getting around 600,000 viewers, do they have to accept that the days of 1 million plus have gone, or realistically, can they get back there? Love the pods, guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Carlos.
Realistically, can they get back there? Yeah. I mean, WWE's ratings improved, particularly on Mondays. Amid this resurgence, they got people in the building with like a really popular product. The timing, given that Vince left, or rather resigned in disgrace,
Yes,
was really sort of convenient for them as well. I would say it's a remote possibility, but it is a possibility. The milli, who cares? For me, I do not care about that million. It's a weird number.
invented, let's be honest.
It's an invented number, invented to criticize AEW and to hold them to a standard that AEW nor the network, which is the most important thing, holds them to. If they are number one, obviously they'd love 1 million. That's not the ambition. That is not the aim. The aim is to be number one. The aim is to, enchant sponsors and advertisers into, laying out on the show, which they do as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, I don't care about the milli. Do not care about the milli.
But I think it's feasible that they get back up there. I mean, obviously...
Not to 1 million. It would take...
and it's also convoluted now because we don't know max numbers, do we?
Yeah. I think I know max numbers, and if you look at the ratings indication, I would think they're minimal.
Yes.
It's been very, they're in that pattern, that TNA meme of 1.1, 1.0, oh, 1.1, oh, 0.9, oh, 1.1. It's 600,000, 0.19 in the demo every single week. This max thing doesn't appear to have impacted the ratings at all, which would lead me to believe that no one watches it on max, or very few people do, because if there was a new audience on max and it had in fact grown, you would see that reflected in the houses, which hasn't happened. Yeah, the milli's fake, but to answer the other part of the question, don't think of the milli, think about just increased viewership in general. It just needs to suck less ass.
Yeah, there's been promising signs, as we've pointed out throughout the first few weeks of the year on our Dynamite reviews and Collision reviews, to be fair, of shoots growing in the in the muck of the Death Riders.
Everything
basically
lives and dies on your main event scene. Like
Yes.
WWE's under and mid cards are so excruciatingly mediocre. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
1998, Jesus Christ. Yeah, everyone was over. In 99 and 2000, 1998, I'll tell you, not everyone was over. I'll tell you that now. Didn't matter. You had Austin. Until the Death Riders is abandoned or they are toppled or whatever, the pattern will stay the same.
On that topic, a question we sort of get asked and answer quite regularly, but I'm always intrigued to know where you are week by week on this. Francois Dillinger says, do you still see AEW going with Darby as the man to beat Mox? And what would you book after we get past, thankfully, Revolution and Cope versus Mox?
If I recall correctly, right, the idea was for Darby to get written off by Jay White in that weird turn of events where they did an injury angle and they Pillmanized his leg, and that was meant to be Darby's going to leave, come back, be Jay White. That was a big business, if I recall, last year, which was a couple of weeks after Revolution, which means that Darby is going to actually do the legit Everest climb, March, April, and look, it's going to All In, isn't it? It's going to All In with Darby Allin.
So that's what, August?
Yeah.
What do you do in the interim then? Because you and I said when Omega's came back and people were even saying, right, Samoa Joe's back, just another interim title run effectively for him. I don't know what you do. It's one of those things, a bit like...
You abandon ship?
Yeah, I was going to say a bit like with Roman
Shrinking.
when it was Cody, and you were like, right,
Shrinking.
what do we do in between now and Mania? Because you're kind of just sacrificing guys. It worked very well, obviously, for them with Sami Zayn and the like in the build to 39. But after that, it just felt like, well, we got to build some guys up a little bit, and then like I don't hear many people being like, let's go, come on. Guys, not long, a month and a half now until Cope versus Mox.
Yeah, they're screwed for the time being in terms of that main event. In a weird way, because we are seemingly stuck with it anyway. Desperate to know the pay-per-view buys for that.
Yeah.
Desperate to know, because that's the one thing. Gates down, ratings stabilized at a number that's not unimpressive, really, given, the wider decline of TV. What does that pape look like if Cope is headlining it amid this storyline? That might be the worst one ever.
Still over a month to go, right?
A month of build for this.
Well, we got thingy next weekend, of course. Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Next Saturday. But big things always happen at the weekend. A bit like tomorrow, I suppose, when your new show with Michael Hamflett drops.
Yes, we've got a new show.
Very exciting, this. So you're reviewing what the best matches ever.
Well, don't say too much.
Okay. It's very exciting.
But there is going to be something that it was one of those where, we are dickheads. After a few podcasts, we will press stop and go, good one, that was good. I thought it was a good one that me and Hamflett did.
Keep an eye out for that on the What Culture Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel tomorrow. And I'll move on, switching gears now.
Switching gears.
From AEW to the Feds. And Matt Reigns has been in touch.
The number one mega fan.
Yeah, he also says, he says that even on days when there's a trophy to play for, Liverpool versus Newcastle in the
Let will win.
League Cup final coming up next month. Hard-hitting one for you here. What would it take for the Fed to do for you to take up your wife's offer and celebrate the daughter's birthday a week early? Matt says he's just asking questions. This is, of course, with regards to our trip to WrestleMania.
Yeah, so context, the lads are going to WrestleMania. I am not. I voluntarily withdrew from that because it's my daughter's birthday on the second night of WrestleMania. I couldn't miss it. And the missus said the daughter is at the age where she doesn't really know what the dates are so she might not know it's her birthday. So if we just delayed things or put things forward by a week, go and do it. And I went, nah, I just couldn't.
You're a good dad.
Ah, thank you. What could the Fed do to have changed my mind? Look, I think Cody versus Punk is the very best match that WWE could do in terms of how it could be sold, the drama that they could engineer, the story they could tell, how big it would feel, like that premise. And sometimes premises don't usually inform great stories half the time, but we've seen it, that every interaction they have is dynamite. What a premise as well. The guy who promised to change it and the guy who did. Amazing stuff. And as Hamflett pointed out in the Raw review, they've already moved on from that in a way and gone from like who's the top guy, who's chasing who. There's so many layers to it all. And yet, I still wouldn't have done it even if this match was all but certain.
Yeah, it'd literally take like Omega to jump, I think.
Yeah.
For you to be like,
I would, if Omega jumped and he did the Cody 38 thing, where it's like the very first time you see him in or back in or whatever, a WWE ring is at WrestleMania, and it's going to be Kenny Omega versus, not Punk, I would build that, but like who's just someone you never think he would wrestle again or for the first time. Gunther! It should be amazing.
it's not happening. You're all right. You're fine.
I'm fine. But in an alternate universe, that would be the one, Omega jumping.
Well, you talk about great WrestleMania cards. The flip side of that, the lovely Scott Carlson of the What Culture Parish, of course.
Lovely guy.
Scott writes, "Good day, gents. Your intrepid What Culture Raw PLE columnist and resident cheesesteak expert with a question. Of all the possible combinations for the main WrestleMania matches, Roman, Cody, Punk, Cena, Gunther, Sami, KO, Seth, etc., what is the worst card you could assemble?"
Rollins in a singles match.
I thought you were going to go like not a McMahon in every corner, but yeah, like a fatal 4-way in the main event for like Cody's title or something like that. Of course, if it was a fatal 5-way, then it would be class.
Yes, then it would be good. We know the rule. We all know the rule. Seth having if they didn't do the Netflix thing and have Punk Rollins on that show and delayed it till WrestleMania. I don't hate the interactions, but the match was as mid as I expected it to be. Seth versus Punk
Again.
Yeah. Or even Seth versus Roman. I know Seth really believes that to be a huge match. The performer himself keeps saying they should have given me Roman's spot. Did in 2019, and look how that shook out. You know, it just... I admire Seth in a way that he's got this drive to be the guy, but at the same time, I think it's completely delusional. He got it. He says, I've never been given the ball in the way that Roman has. You did in 2019. You did. You got the ball. You got the ball. You were the main attraction on Raw. That was your show.
Mm-hmm.
You had the title for a while, long enough. You cleanly defeated Brock Lesnar twice in the same calendar year.
Just did it again, didn't they? That didn't work first time. We'll do it again.
Yeah. You're just not that guy, Seth. You're just not that guy. And it's already galling that he's considered such a big star there, or so indispensable or important that they've had to, as I described it on the Raw review, this WrestleMania card, the way it's shaping up is a compromise, albeit a well-booked compromise, but a compromise. So it's already not the nightmare scenario, but put it this way, I'm already a bit gutted that I'm not going to Vegas as much for the boys, and as much as I rag on afraid, I really enjoy it live. It's so much fun live.
Yeah.
The way this card is shaping up, I'm like, oh God, I'm suddenly very, very okay with my decision. So Seth versus Punk or Rollins, or Seth versus Gunther.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
They teased that as a little red herring on the Raw.
Seth blows kind of hot and cold for me. Sometimes I'm well into it, and right now when people are like, "Who's in danger of missing out on a big match on the card?"
Yeah, tough titties.
I get Cody Punk.
Tough titties, Seth.
I get Cody Punk. I don't really care about much of the rest of the card. I was
Cody
going to say
Punk
that.
feels like they're saving something for next year.
Yeah, maybe. As I mentioned with the video I just shot with Andy yesterday, learn from AEW's mistakes. If you can do it now, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, for me...
He's such a good booker. You can build something
Gunther,
better next year.
It's a good match, but I wouldn't want to do it at WrestleMania because I think... Like, I suggested Cena versus Logan Paul for this WrestleMania card because I just think, yes, it's Cena's last WrestleMania, but I'd hold off on the world title side of things. You've got too many things I think you need to execute. It drops down the priority list for me easily. And playing with the fear of, like, Cena lose his last WrestleMania match to Logan Paul. I think, like, Logan Paul versus Cody would probably be really good fun again, but, like... I don't want to see that at WrestleMania.
Seth is just... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say just and not doing Sami KO. It's just an open goal every time.
Yeah. I'll never get Seth Rollins. I will never understand the appeal of Seth Rollins. The most I sort of explained it to myself because I find it irrational, the fact that people really rate him and want to see him in these spots, you know. I think Seth... Maybe he generated... Is he even that over, or do they like the song? People are talking about that with Jey Uso in the entrance. I think it applies to Seth Rollins and the song. Terrible babyface in 2019. Even worse heel over the next 2 years. Comes back as a babyface. It's almost hand of the author stuff. And CM Punk called him out on it. Hat on top of a hat just to try and make yourself more interesting. These extravagant wardrobe choices just... obscure. There's now underneath that shell. Nothing. And I think Seth Rollins has done a very savvy job of depicting himself of, I'm of the genre of a Will Ospreay. Basically, the disciples of AJ Styles, that type of wrestler. And Omega and Ospreay both say we idolize that guy and we patterned ourselves after him. And I think AJ Styles is the most influential wrestler of the 21st century. I wish he wasn't so influential, really, even though Omega's my favorite. But if you consider Seth in that class, that stylistic lineage from AJ Styles to Kenny, Ospreay, Seth, a million others, he might be the worst. He might be the worst. 2015, different gravy. Shame about the storylines. I know this is not exactly a question, Scott, but basically anything in a Seth Rollins singles match capacity would be giving me the nightmare scenario. 2015, blistering form, bit of a demon in that ring.
Didn't have the handbrake on, did he?
Yeah. The knee injury, I just find this match is so sludgy, like so light in terms of the contact, and he doesn't have the level of thought. Maybe it's a WWE thing, and they do not really go into these layers of thought that an Omega would in New Japan, Maybe it's a WWE thing, but athletically and in terms of that ability to just generate the drama and that I cannot believe what I'm seeing, feeling from an Omega or an Ospreay. And it's not as if he does anything, he has this personality draw, like, oh God, everything he does is so interesting, like CM Punk. Seth Rollins is so bland in every department to me. So anything to do with Seth Rollins in a singles match would be my worst WrestleMania card.
I like the idea of him and Roman. I'd like to see how that plays out. But I think for me, one of the worst matches you could do at WrestleMania is also a match that they could do, and it could be one of the best because of a tiny tweak that should happen. We should mention we're recording this ahead of SmackDown. But like Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton, if they try and go in and be like, people's favorite Charlotte Flair is going to die on its arse. If they do heel Charlotte Flair versus, champion but babyface, or more babyface at least than Charlotte, Tiffany Stratton, I think they could have an absolute tear up. Speaking of which, I've got a question from a friend of mine who's an actual shoot doctor, not like this guy over here.
Yeah, well, we've worked out. Michael Hamflett's actually got a different vocation. Well, I'm going to tell you all about that next week, hopefully.
Yes. This is my friend. He works in Canada, and his shoot name is Dr. Heaven. Dr. Seb Heaven. Lovely man. Pal? Yeah, friend of mine. Through my friend Ben that I went to uni with. Just a lovely guy, big wrestling fan. Hi, Seb, if you're watching. And in relation to what we were talking about there, a week on, he asks, why on earth did they think it was a good idea to have Charlotte win the Women's Royal Rumble? Was she still the right pick for you?
Look, it looks like they're going with Io versus Rhea and the other side of things. The other side of things on Raw. Io was the one for me. Look, I'm one of those losers who just really quite prefers in-ring over episodic TV. More often than not, especially in WWE. And Io Sky, I always find it particularly impressive when a wrestler who doesn't really get that much screen time just gets a huge reaction out of a WWE crowd who aren't necessarily there for the wrestling. That must mean you're so good at wrestling that you're undeniable. Even in like not exactly like the performances that Io Sky's been putting in on Raw, they will not remotely trouble like Match of the Year charts at the end of this year, and nor did they last year. But on an individual basis, just stuff pops so well and it looks so great that people just come up for it almost involuntarily. But it looks like they're going with her. They're just taking a different route, an unpredictable one as well, given that she's out of the chamber. So that leaves open who would be challenging Tiffany. It's weird. It's weird. Like, it's shocking because with Charlotte Flair, she's got that big match pedigree where she has had the best match of Becky Lynch's career in ring, probably Evolution. Like there was a point where she had the best of everyone's matches. Best Rhea match, you know. She's got that in big match pedigree. She becomes undeniable with the biggest lights on her. And if you're WWE and you're thinking, well, I do know with Jey Uso, so maybe I'm contradicting the point, but it's like it doesn't matter. They always think our guys are the right people. Yeah. Our people are the right people. It's been something that's followed, that Triple H has taken on from Vince, this just unwavering, it's them, we know it's them, and sometimes they're actually right. Charlotte Flair delivers in that spot in the big match, so I think it'll be easier to determine after WrestleMania, but there are so few wrestlers who get the opportunity to get over to that WrestleMania main event level that there's no one who's, through not much fault of their own, there's no one on SmackDown where I'm thinking, it has to be her, has to be her, has to be her, has to be her.
You'd have to go for a real wild choice, like a Jordan Grace, which arguably wouldn't work if you're facing someone like Tiffany. Or maybe it would. Or a Becky Lynch or whatever, and they've obviously already done that in NXT. So I do think time will be kinder on this. And I think that the way that they went about it is probably the right way if they decide to turn a heel, because if not, you're going into the chamber going, well, Charlotte's winning the bloody chamber, isn't she? So there's no anticipation there whatsoever. At least they've just sort of ripped the Band-Aid off. She's won. She's going to WrestleMania. And the only thing to work out now is who she's facing. Should be Tiffany. And what she is should be a heel.
Absolutely. They could do the whole, we meant it all along, guys, deal that they sometimes do as well. I think Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton could be hot at WrestleMania. I really do. And I like Charlotte Flair anyway.
Yeah. Matthew Richards says, you've spoken about going through the men's division where who's possibly going to miss out, Seth, Drew, Priest, AJ. Who from the women's division could miss out Mania? Matthew mentions Naomi, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Bayley, etc. Bayley's an interesting name in that list.
Bayley's an interesting name in that list, and it's weird to talk about around WrestleMania and whether she really deserves a high-profile slot, because she had one of the best matches at WrestleMania for me last year. I loved that match with Io Sky. That Io Sky front flip out of the rolling plant it looked like she had no space to do it. What an unbelievable counter. Bayley was great in that match as well. But she might be washed. I think she's washed, and she's not that over. It's one of those weird things where you always thought, all right, Bayley as a babyface under a competent booker, off to the races. No, it just doesn't. It's never really clicked. It's never really clicked. If I'm being really brutal about it and going total, and again, you always have to go back to that conversation of how fair is it if they don't really get that much TV time or that much time to speak or to develop the characters, and the booking is always going to inform your forecasts for spots, and the booking's not good enough, and it's to a lesser extent than AEW, it's still that horrible buffering thing. If you can't, it's that circle meme. You can't really escape it, that cycle. But as much as Bayley is often she's very inconsistent, Bianca Belair absolutely rips every single time she's in the ring, and it's a disgrace that she doesn't get more to do. She might get a big match with Jade Cargill, but we're not journalists here other than the OTJ. But even the really connected ones, like Meltzer once upon a time, it's SAP. It's all shrouded in mystery what this Jade Cargill thing is, but there should at least be, as you call them, shoots for a backup plan for someone as good as Bianca Belair. There was a point when Bianca Belair looked like she was going to be the next insert pronoun WrestleMania. Like her first two matches on the big stage were phenomenal. She was a big stadium player, and they've just seemed to have ignored that, and I find it baffling.
Intrigued to see what they do with her, like you say.
Sasha and the Becky matches were incredible.
And
what did she do at 39 again?
39.
37 was Sasha, unbelievable.
Yeah.
38 Becky.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
40 we were there for was the 3-on-3.
Yeah. So
just the mega entry. Oh, cool. This is kind of a nothing match. You all know what's about to happen, but this feels like the biggest thing I'm ever watching.
What did Bianca Belair do at 39 again? So it's 2023.
LA. I have to look this up. My brain's smush. WrestleMania.
Oh, I think it was Asuka, was it not?
Yes, with the kids, because I got in bother. Because there was that lovely entrance with all the little girls.
Cried.
Someone screenshot, because I have no idea what the story was there. And there's all these lovely tweets from people being like, what a wonderful moment. And then my tweets, Asuka should miss one of the kids. So that was fun. It was Asking you right there.
I remember that being good to very good, not great, but
yeah,
certainly not enough to just
not
take her
Bianca's
off the
fault
singles.
if it didn't hit the heights.
Yeah.
I hope they have big plans for her following WrestleMania because the Jade stuff
squandered.
Yeah.
Squandered.
And you've got people in there now. You know, she's done the fun stuff with like Lash Legend of that ilk. Jordan Grace. You've got people coming up through NXT. Like, she'd be someone who I'd put them with just to be like, this is the standard.
Yeah.
This is what we expect from you. She's come up through NXT and she's knocked, like you say, everything out of the park. So I hope she gets that. And one of Bianca, Jade, and Naomi's probably going to miss out there depending on how they play this, which is a shame. In terms of other names, I mean, so I suppose some people might not like this. Nia Jax has had an incredible year, Queen of the Ring, world title reign, but going into WrestleMania, like you're booking more stuff for Chelsea Green than you are Nia Jax.
It is. You know what? I hadn't considered that. On TV particularly, she's had some really unexpected great outings. And you'd think that, well, the whole idea was, and now it's real because there's a competent booker who apparently listens to the audience now of meritocracy. You're the best all year, you get rewarded with a top spot at WrestleMania. Let's see how much that holds true this year.
She'll be her and Drew just shaking their heads together.
That idea could slowly be disintegrating, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see.
Becky's another one, but that's slightly different, I suppose. John Oldfield says, hey guys, first of all, allow me to indulge Sidg. How's the coffee journey this week?
Right, so it's more this month. I usually go for a monthly kilogram bag, but I have, and I'm going to recommend this not only for the coffee being excellent, but also for the ethical impact. There is an independent roaster. I forget where they're based in the UK. So if you're in the UK and you're listening and you like your coffee, there is one of the only non-profits to registered charity, Skylark Coffee. Skylark Coffee. It's a total non-profit, registered charity, and it all goes back to making the coffee industry better. So you can, I mean, a lot of the roasters I go from do sort of try and circumvent what can be a pretty rotten industry on a mass scale. By like sourcing from independent coffee farms and all the rest of it. So I think specialty coffee, which I'm a pretentious idiot, so that's what I go for, is generally a bit more ethical. But Skylark in the UK is a total non-profit, and they've got a really good selection. So at the minute, I'm trying to work out. If you don't care about this, I will go on for 5 minutes, whether I want to or not. So feel free to skip. At the minute, right, there's so many layers to the hobby and the obsession that I think I'm only just scratching the surface. So it's gone from, I like a latte from a shop. Never understood the big appeal of coffee, even though I know there's got to be something to it. I'm too stupid to use a cafetiere, and it's all going to get very bitty. Then the missus, best birthday present ever, gets me an AeroPress, which I am simple enough to use. Then I go, right, okay, fresh coffee's nice. No, it's not fresh. That's actually ground coffee. You want beans and you want to get a hand grinder. Right, I'm doing all that, okay. This tastes a bit funny. Yeah, that's because of this. You want it roasted light to medium. Okay, we're getting somewhere with this. I'm drinking it. Then you go grind setting. There's so many different things. Yeah. If you go too fine, it can just pull a cup that's just not right. And then you have to find the right grind setting, which can vary from coffee type to coffee types. That's another consideration. The exact ratios between grams and ml of coffee and water. Right, okay, there's more to this, there's more to this. Then what I started doing, you only just ignore things, and you just, why do I ignore things? They always say, make sure your coffee's rested. That's a lot of bollocks. I'll just
crack it open.
Yeah, crack it open. Now I've got it now, so I want it. And then I would always, I never made the connection because I'm just an impatient person to begin with. I never made the connection of, all right, okay, when I first got my first, it's happened for a year. I'm not much of an idiot. It's like, right, okay, new coffee, should rest it. Nah, idiot, I'm not doing that. How much difference can it make? First cup. It's a bit of a disappointing bag, that. And then after, sure enough, 3, 4, 5 days, and then 6, 7. Actually, not. I should have given this more of a chance. It's nice. No, that's an idiot. It's just rested for a week, and you meant to rest it for a week. So now, rested for a week. And So now my new thing is, right, okay, so I feel like I'm getting a proper, like, grasp of what I like and how to make the best coffee. And I always thought, washed and natural can't make that much of a difference. That's the process of how it's harvested and all the rest of it, where either they wash the beans before the fermentation, all the rest of it, or they just let them dry out naturally, and that's how the flesh goes away under the sun and all the rest of it. So what happens if it does it naturally and it takes a while for the flesh of the fruit to dry out, the coffee beans get fruitier. So I had washed the bag before I've got now, and it was a cold wash, so I think it's like an extreme wash coffee or whatever, and I found it to be a little bit too sharp and acidic, and I quite like that, but it was like, got into a nice tang eventually, but it was just a bit, it's like, I'm ready for something sweeter. So I've gone for a natural, and as much as Skylark Coffee, this is beautiful, the one that I've got, is a non-profit. All of them use the same kind of tricks to get you with these like really cool flavor notes. It's meant to be a guide, doesn't actually taste like it. The sexier, the better for me.
Yeah.
Work me, daddy. This one tastes like tropical Skittles. Right, okay, well, I'm obviously going to order that right now.
Yeah.
Right now. And it is so sweet. I almost want a little bit more balance, but it's so sweet, and I love drinking it, and I could just have loads of it. So what happens is the coffee will taste different when it cools. So you want to, if you drink it straight away, it's just going to taste like hotness and coffee. But if you let it cool, not too much, because you want a nice hot warming cup, there's a certain, like 3 minutes, right, bang. And it gets much sweeter, like a lighter medium roast. And you get more of the flavor profile, the more it cools. This coffee that I've got now, you can almost sense the sweetness, like springing from the cup the second that it's poured. It's unbelievably sweet. But you know when people say, I like my coffee strong, or I think they mean bitter, but I like my coffee strong, don't buy that one. It's the opposite of what you want.
I like the fact that John's also tried to include me in this conversation. Well, what's your favourite coffee shop if you had to choose, Starbucks or Costa? Now, I'd pick Good Brews, obviously, in the Gateshead interchange if I was going to get coffee from anywhere. I'd probably go Costa over Starbucks, but I don't really buy a lot of coffee other than at Good Brews. And my coffee journey this week
You keep them in business.
Yeah, my coffee journey this week is I've run out of my peppermint flavouring liquid, so it's just coffee now. It's just
coffee.
Just instant coffee.
And, hey. It's all right. I'm not a snob.
John also has a wrestling question.
All right, hello.
What's the flaws that awesome wrestlers have that you wish they could fix, whether it be in AEW or WWE?
I always go back to this, so apologies for repeating myself. I wish Kenny Omega would. Maybe he's starting to get it a little bit now. I wish he would just be more ambitious, more of a prick.
Is this in terms of like booking, like self-centered? Yeah. Because it was ambitious what he did of like, no. This is our company, but I'm not going to be world champion straight out of the gate. And people misinterpreted that as, I hear him in the rest of the elite crap now.
Yeah. In a way, I don't know if Tony Khan and Kenny Omega are the best booker talent dynamic because Kenny will wrestle tags, and he loves tag team wrestling all the live long day, and it tags and trios matches and 8-mans. That's an integral booking component of like the zonal stuff that we get into, the zonal booking of AEW. So I don't know if they like are too. That's the word I'm looking for, the phrase I'm looking for. And I just think that they sort of give in to one another's indulgences quite so easily, whereas Ghetto was like, well, no, you're Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
You're going to lead our American expansion, and you're going to be the world champion. Do that. So I wish Kenny would be a little bit more, no. If I'm going to come back, I had to learn how to again. He said it. If I'm going to have to go through hell, that sounds awful. Yeah. Hell. Give me the belt as soon as I come back. You know what I mean? Just be you're better than them. And you know it as well.
Yeah.
So just act like it. And if you have to tell Moxley yourself, I'm sure Kenny could do that.
I wouldn't hire 80% of you in the roster.
And I mean, Folks, where's the lie?
Comparing them to yourself and your Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
This isn't arrogance.
I know. So that's the one that I go to. Say the question again, just in case there's any more springs to mind.
What flaws that awesome wrestlers have do you wish they could fix?
One more, and I love him. MJF, I would give him thicker skin. I think what happened was he had a Turk Arena against Hangman Page very early into Dynamite. He had a main event, not main event, but like that big match at Revolution with Cody. It wasn't as good as the build. On reflection, not as good as the build. I expected something I expected a 5-star match.
Yeah.
Or a 5-star occasion spectacle. Didn't get it. I thought they overthought it. And between the two of them, they are kind of guilty of that at times.
That's fair.
And then the worst thing that could have happened. MJF was considered by some very early into his career as well. Oh, it's a shame he can't wrestle. Or it's a shame he's not that good at wrestling compared to his promos. And I think he took that criticism like a dagger to the heart. And ever since, even though he's proved it over and over again, Darby Allin, Jack Perry, Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay, I think the pursuit of proving people wrong has almost consumed him, and then he's forgotten who he is and should be as a pro wrestler. Good news, he's, a big player in AEW. He gets sort of veto treatment over what he wants to do storyline-wise, creative-wise. I think he sensed this, hence why he's working with Jarrett and Dustin Rhodes. I think he wants to be MJF again. That's the sense I get.
I hope so, yeah.
But yeah, MJF needs thicker skin. Everyone in AEW as an institution needs thicker skin while I'm at it. But MJF needs to realize, I hope he realizes, this is a nicer way of putting it, less is more. Less is more for your character.
A few quick fire questions for you here, Sidg, because I think you're going to be very dismissive in some of your answers.
I'll be nice. I love everyone.
No, it's about the Death
interacts.
Riders. I promise this is the last question I'll ask you about them. Jamie says, do you think the mighty WWE could get the Death Riders over with the fans or critics? And if so, what would they do differently? I think it's impossible.
Yes. This is a fence-sitting cop-out answer potentially, but I've got two answers for it. I think WWE would do a much better job of booking Jon Moxley than AEW, and in fact, Jon Moxley is doing right now, even if you just reunite the Shield. So Moxley and maybe this version of Claudio, I don't think they'd do anything with Wheeler Yuta. I think it'd be Pete Dunne 2.0 if he's not that already realistically. So I can't imagine the Fed doing anything to book Yuta well. Moxley, Claudio, individual basis, probably better. Maybe, I don't know. The actual Death Riders as a stable, or maybe even the idea of, first of all, WWE would be stupid to book a stable where it's like, everything sucks and it needs to change or whatever, because why would you never want to advertise that to begin with, and WWE's red hot. So let's go with not that element of the presentation, which is all but dead anyway, and let's focus on the idea of Death Riders being a group of really hard, sinister, serious people who get heat. I think one of the reasons why I actually hate the Death Riders, it's so Paul Levesque coded.
I suppose, yeah, that's
it's
a good way
like
of putting
a
it.
different version of Paul Levesque the booker would, and in fact, probably has at some point or another, booked something like the Death Riders, this group of hard, like really tough, dour. They are NXT Capital Wrestling Center if it was a stable. So I think you do just as dismal a job, really. I think the idea of people being hard, it's not really that for American TV anyway. It's not that appealing.
A lot of this stable's running the show for a long time now.
Yeah.
Bloodline, Judgment Day, New Bloodline.
Yeah, it's almost at the point where everyone's like, oh, God, stables, bring them back. They're great for narratives. They're cool. I think I am post-stable personally. 5 years' time, it'll change. But yeah, I think the Death Riders would bring out the old worst of Levesque as a booker.
Yeah. Mr. Waffle asks what you think the main events of WrestleMania are going to be.
They
right
seem pretty... If they're penciled in, they're going over them in pen.
So you go night one, triple threat?
Well, here's the thing.
Mad that none of the women's matches have even entered into this conversation.
It's not mad. It's bad.
Yeah.
The thing about Punk, Rollins, Roman, it's a compromise. It seems like a compromise. If it looks like a compromise and it smells like a compromise, it is a compromise. But it's one of the more well-booked triple threat matches that I can recall. Not that it's even booked yet, but bear with me. Surely the idea that this web of animosity between all three men has sort of consumed them, and they basically told you at the Royal Rumble what the direction was. They are all in each other's way, and they've all collectively between them conspired to rob one another of the WrestleMania main event and the biggest glory that there is to be had in WWE. That's the story. There's personal elements and layers of that, but the story really is we've just f***ed ourselves between us out of the f***ing WrestleMania 41 main event. I'm going to kick both your asses. No, I'm going to kick both your asses. That shouldn't narratively be the main event, even though it feels like a way to accommodate CM Punk and Roman Reigns into the main event.
And to have someone to pin in it.
Indeed. Narratively, it makes no sense for it to be the main event at all. So at time of recording, I would do Jay versus Gunther and Cody versus Cena. I would do Cody versus Punk, to be fair, but that's not where it's going.
Speaking of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, actually, interesting question there. I didn't even factor into my thoughts with regards to KO and Sami, because, of course, where Elimination Chamber is coming from, Toronto, if you're unaware. With Kevin Owens now feuding with Sami Zayn again, how would you book the match, and would you have the match at Elimination Chamber or hold on till Mania? I'd go with the first one, says Patrick.
Oh. Well, it's in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're Montreal guys. Canada's just a big place. I would do something with them on the card, certainly, but it doesn't feel like the location is really informing where the match must be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Canada, it's not Montreal. Yeah, I'll do it at Mania. Do something to set it up at Chamber, but do it at Mania.
Yeah, makes the most sense. What do you think the
It's
theory...
got such a very cool shared journey at WrestleMania. Like, it could define a lot of WrestleMania's modern history between, was it 37 and 39, and then even at 40, it was a big part of Sami's entrance. You could argue Kevin Owens in coming weeks could almost take credit for that.
Yeah.
That's maybe a bit of foreshadowing. So it has to be WrestleMania. It's too big a match, and the history there is very cool.
Yeah, what do you think of this? It's just a question from me, because when I tweeted about my idea of Sami, Money in the Bank, KO beats Cena later on in the year, Sami cashes in, a lot of people said, no, Sami's winning the Saudi Rumble and going on to WrestleMania to face Kevin Owens possibly there.
Wilbourn, at this point, you're one of my best mates. I think you're incredible at your job.
Thank you.
I think your idea of Sami Zayn winning the Money in the Bank is stupid.
That's been wrong for quite a few years, to be fair.
It's not just the prediction. It's in your fantasy booking, does Sami Zayn book his match in advance?
I think, he has to be honourable about it, doesn't he?
Because I hate the idea of all people, Sami Zayn doing that. I hate that was sort of Big E. It was so bittersweet for me, that title win that. Well, I'm going to cheat someone out of it and do an unfair fight.
Whoever wins, I'm
baby
cashing.
face.
So they've had a fight already.
Yeah,
that was so desperate. No one's watching on TV anymore. We'll just let them know that cashing's happening ahead of time.
That was bad. That was pathetic. I wouldn't want Sami to have a cash in like that. He could win the actual briefcase and set the match in advance as a babyface. Yes. I've got no problem with that. But the way that they currently do things, I wouldn't want Sami to win it.
I can see them doing the Saudi Rumble thing. I don't know. I'd effectively possibly be back-to-back WrestleManias where they both, which is, fine. They've done that before, obviously, with numerous different people. But, yeah, I just see them booking some mad, I don't know what's booked and what's not already. But let's say Survivor Series, right, is in Montreal. And before that, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens beats Cena following SummerSlam, one of the interim ones. And Sami Zayn's just letting you know that I'm calling my shot there.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's charge, I mean, they already do, charge astronomical numbers for those sort of tickets because people, it's one of the few things left, genuinely, that people still want to see outside of bringing other people in and dream matches and what have you. Sami Zayn winning a world title is like one of those reasons I think, along with the booking get far better and him being, given WrestleMania main events and what have you, but another one of the reasons why Sami Zayn stuck around.
Yeah.
Well, actually, speaking of people jumping between companies, Seth Fracker says, who is most likely to end up under WWE contract first and why out of these 4 people? Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, Adam Copeland, or MJF?
MJF's long-term tied down, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Cope, if they've given him a 5-year deal, they're out of their minds.
Oh, boy.
I'd hope he's on 3. Jericho's an interesting case. If I'm WWE, look, AEW is lower on the priorities in terms of throttling them than it was in 2019. But it's still something they want to do to this day. And I'm sorry, right? If you're one of these people who thinks, why would they do that? AEW's in the mud or whatever, and WWE's red hot or white hot. To this day, post Vince, well after AEW was even vaguely competitive with WWE, and there was the signs that they kind of could beat them in Raw and the demo and what have you years ago. To this day, they're still counter-programming them. To this day, they are still trying just to gently squeeze them out just in case they get good again. They don't want that, so they will counter-program. They did it with World's End. Isn't there something on All In weekend?
Yes.
I don't want to say that out of turn, but there's definitely an upcoming big AEW event where there's WWE's doing something that weekend, You could argue that this new trend of doing, we're going to go to Europe a week after All In London, and this time obviously it's Forbidden Door, isn't to the time they could do it any old time of year. It's under a roof. You could do it any old time of year. I know for a fact, because I spoke to some lovely European fans at the first All In, that it was a big international European draw. So it's not too expensive to fly between European countries. And it's not too much of a pain in the arse as well. I've been on shorter trips to Paris, Prague.
Clash in Paris, is that All In? That's the one.
Well, when's Clash in Paris?
August 31st.
Yeah, like Forbidden Doors 24th in London. Like, I've spent, yes, you got to factor in the airport time. I've had shorter flights from the UK to Prague, Porto, Crete, Paris, Amsterdam, to that f***ing train journey from Newcastle to Cardiff in 2022. It took 7 years. It took 7 hours. It took like about 5 or 6 hours.
I wasn't there. I missed out on this.
It went on for ages.
Not this thing, but the travel by the sounds of it.
Yeah, so you kind of tell me that them doing it a week later isn't a way to deter fans in Paris and Berlin to go, instead of traveling to the UK, well, just Europe will bring one to you. So they're still doing it. All of which, I do have a point, and I have remembered it for once, all of which is to say that what transformed everything, getting Cody from AEW to WWE, it did. They were winning at the time. They really had nothing going into WrestleMania 38. They had nothing. For Austin's coming back and Cody's signed. Like, you shitting me?
Mm-hmm.
You shitting me? Before that, it was Roman versus Brock again. And what else?
Ronda? Is that the Ronda one, wasn't it?
The bed as well, didn't she? So and look at Punk, who I don't think he's had the same proper paradigm shift of we are on fire. They were already on fire when Punk came, but certainly he's been a huge star and has moved some really impressive numbers. Getting someone from AEW and elevating them to a huge star slot has 2 wonderful effects if you're WWE. 1, it grows your business. 2, it makes AEW look like this amateur Bush League outfit, minor league, who fumble wrestlers. Okay? The opposite was true. Fumbling wrestlers, that was WWE's thing. This shift in perception.
Penta
Penta is pretty good if you're WWE. Can you imagine? If I'm Levesque, I'm taking this punt. If I'm Levesque, I'm signing Chris Jericho. I'm saying get yourself into Revolution 2022 shape. Do it now. Look like you did in that match against Kingston because he looked $1 million. He was pretty good in the ring. In fact, at times he was amazing in the ring in 2022, Chris Jericho. He really was. Get in that shape again. And he won't have to go as hard as he did in those matches against Kingston and Ishii and Mox because it's the Fed. Get in that shape. Come over. Because there are two possibilities that happen. One, oh God, Chris Jericho's washed. Fine. Doesn't really matter if this big signing doesn't really work out. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't really embarrass anyone. Oh, Jericho's just as bad as he was in AEW. If, though, they can make Chris Jericho a star again, feel like on top of the wrestling world again, that would be so humiliating for All Elite Wrestling. It would be like him. He looks like he's in his MLW ass period of his career, and they've got Jericho into a star again. He was in the learning tree, for Christ's sake. the Vortex.
Yeah.
They've got Jericho over again. AEW can't get nothing right. So if I'm Levesque, he's in a contract here by all accounts as Chris Jericho. I'm absolutely taking the punt. I think it's no risk whatsoever.
See that happening.
No risk.
If you're asking me, heart, I want it to be MJF, but I agree. I think he's there for the long haul. Head, Mox. I think can see Mox getting frustrated. Like the Death Rise didn't go my way, but
I felt like the last sort of let's try and make it work,
and then just like I might as well go back there and actually things have changed, and they try it really and do more Shield stuff. Obviously, it's still always going to be there.
Indeed, I just remembered that you said let's do a couple of rapid fire ones.
Oh no, that's
more
long
like a
gone.
musket, like a musket of an answer to a rapid fire question.
Here's one for you, rapid fire. Brad Daniel, is there a food or beverage you enjoy whilst watching PLEs and PPVs?
Maybe if I was in the States, it would be different. But usually I'm either watching live or I'm getting up at 3 or 4 to preempt my kids waking up. I can't even be arsed to get up and make a coffee. I can't, let alone eat. I like a breakfast. I'm a breakfast guy. I like to eat soon after waking up, but not at 3 a.m. I just usually sit there or lie there, trudge downstairs, big telly, trudge downstairs, straight under the covers and go, oh, good wrestling. I know a match as good as my split time zone Brit ass is like vibrating all over the shop when I'm essentially half asleep still. So what would I do if I was watching it at a normal time, or if I'm watching like, I don't know, like Clash at the Castle or whatever? You know what? I'll have Iron Brew.
Ooh, good choice.
I don't know if it's because
Hit of energy as well.
Aldi has just debuted their Snide version. And now, Snide Pop, I don't know if they have this in the States, but just a slightly, like an own brand knockoff with a similar recipe. I find that so much more close to the real thing than instant coffee or whatever. So I'm a big fan of cheap soda. And Aldi's Iron Brew recipe is pretty damn good. And I love it. It's easier to get Iron Brew right than Coke.
Yeah,
So I love Iron Brew as well. I just love it so much. So I have a nice Iron Brew in a frozen glass.
Nice.
Just to keep that cold feeling ticking, baby. You know what I'm into big time at the minute. Like to the point where I might have a problem. And I'm just, every time, I need some bits on the shop. I'll get them.
Yes.
I'll get them. And I'm just, Maltesers, bro. Honestly, the amount of Maltesers I'm eating at the minute, it's not healthy and it's not good. And they're so much better out the cardboard box.
Yeah.
There's
always more in there. That's the
Have you
thing.
ever seen, this is disgusting, I think I'm turning it into Hamlet. He's actually doing runs and stuff, so maybe the rules are reversing. You ever seen that Instagram reel? Because like Instagram goes, he's a dad, so you like baby content. Of the, I think it's like a meme or whatever, of the 100% intent, 0% damage of the baby trying to go to its mouth.
Yes, I love that.
I do that with the Maltesers in my hand. Get a big pile of them and just rub them over my face right there. Maltesers are goated. I can eat Maltesers if it was like, oh, Sidg, do you want some Maltesers for free? I'd be like, yeah. Those big boxes.
Yeah.
I dread to think. Iron Brew Maltesers are my thing at the minute. I dread to think how many of those I could hoover up if it was just an unlimited supply. Like a post-bag sack.
Going to big shop Aldi this weekend because they've got the American snacks, apparently, ahead of Super Bowl on Sunday. So I'm going to be getting the...
Oh, I've seen that. There's the American aisle. I have seen this, yes.
Yeah, stocking up for that. The real indictment is when I laying there watching wrestling like that and I get up and I realise there's food on me that I've just not realised. So like sweets or Skittles chews just fall off. And I'm like, look,
you love a sweetie, don't you?
I love it.
I love a sweetie.
Final question then. Paul says, hi guys, big fan. Not literally, as that would make no sense. How would you book the Eddie Kingston return? I'd have him take down Mox upon his return. Thanks for everything. Cheers.
Oh.
God, I can't wait for Kingston to come back.
I wouldn't. I like the idea, but I wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. I don't want Eddie Kingston to talk about the soul of AEW and things like that.
Oh, no.
He's so valuable as a TV character because everything and anything pisses him off. He's a walking source of conflict who you cannot keep your eyes away from because someone's going to piss him off or he's going to feel like he hates someone. I would remove him completely away from this spirit of the promotion stuff. I know AEW itself has kind of moved away from it, but whatever. I would keep him as far away from it as possible because I think what ultimately sells a wrestling product is stars, mega stars. Because if you look at some of Cody's title feuds, not amazing. The Owens one was really good. The AJ one, Logan Paul, Solo Sikoa, he just happens to be a major star. And that's more important than stories. If you don't have the star power, which AEW doesn't, stories is what is the next most important thing. And if you've got the luxury of having Eddie Kingston, who is clever enough to craft a long-term story with like input between him and Tony Khan, and he's so good at making people believe that I hate this person and this person hates me right back, I would put him straight into like a proper long-term personal rivalry away from the title picture for now. And if this grudge rivalry is amazing, then you start thinking about it. But the thing is that I'm guilty of is him in the title picture, put them in the title picture. I'm already got Swerve, Hangman, Omega, and Omega and Ospreay as my 4 that I'm building around. I'm putting Eddie Kingston in a long overdue, epic long rivalry with MJF.
I love that. I really, really like that as a suggestion. I was hoping you were going to get there. That's so exciting. Get well soon, Eddie Kingston.
Musket answers.
Right, let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed in the comment section below or on X at WhatCulture WWE. Watch that you can follow both of us. You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
Certified Turtle. At M. Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilbourn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. As I said, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. And tomorrow on the WhatCulture Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel, check out the new series with Michael Sidgwick and Michael Hamflett. Very, very excited to see that one. But for now, this has been your questions answered. My thanks to Michael Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.